Kevin and I both think that you have um, just very strong fundamentals. You kind of present as like the classic profile of someone who um, is able to just like work accurately and quickly off of the strength of your intuitions,
Mm,
which is excellent. And we see a lot of evidence of that. For example, we were just looking at your RC section, and we saw that you kind of mismanaged your time. So that by the time you got to the fourth passage, you barely had any time left. Even
mm.
so, you spent 2 minutes reading the passage, 6 seconds, 21 seconds, 54, 24, 13, 26 seconds, and you flew through it and you just got all the questions right.
Mm,
So that's just fair, like kind of classic, evidence of just strong intuitions.
mm.
We also saw this in LR as well. Oh, although over here you didn't. Actually, Kevin, where else do we see this?
It was the other section. It was section 3 and I believe
Mm.
section 4 as well. Yeah. But
Ah, yes. Yes. Here towards the end. Section 3. Oh, yes. Section 4 towards the end. Again, you just kind of flew through a bunch of, you didn't
Mm.
miss one, but still, you just got a bunch of these right just very quickly. So anyway,
Mm.
all of that is just evidence for our speculation that you're working on very strong fundamentals. Having said that, we do have specific feedback for how you can do better. Um, and there are just patterns in the errors that you're committing. Kevin, I'm gonna let you take over screen share.
yeah. So you'll notice that when we go to RC, your passage read time is very fast, so 250, but your question time is very long, and that seems to be
Mm.
consistent throughout. So you're reading the passage in under 2 minutes, question is over 7 minutes. And that is what caused you to run out of time for the last passage. So I
Mm.
think you can easily improve your RC just by taking more time on the passage read first. So just to give you some statistics, if I were to read a passage, a totally new passage, I might average 3 minutes on the passage read, maybe even 3.5 minutes on the passage read. And it's not because I necessarily need all of that time to understand the passage, but it's because I know that just taking a little bit more time to summarize, to stop before going to the questions and do a recap of the main points of each paragraph, doing things like that, skimming parts that I felt a little bit shaky about, doing things like that is just going to help on the questions overall. And so I
Mm.
just think if you spend more time reading the passage before you go to the questions, then you'll just naturally have enough time for the last passage, and you'll also have enough time to go back and check things. So, does that sound right? Like when you do RC right now, you're basically reading the passage pretty quickly and then just jumping immediately to the questions?
Yeah, I do a pretty brief low res summary on a little notepad, and then I skim through one time pretty quickly just to make sure that I didn't necessarily skip over any parts or skim too briefly. That definitely does sound right. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you basically can treat it as if you have all the time in the world to read, because I'm pretty
mm.
sure that there's no situation where you're gonna like end up spending 5 minutes reading the passage and running out of time. I think right now you just should have the freedom to take as much time as you need in the passage to really internalize the points, and then the rest of it will just go smoothly. I don't think there's really anything else you need on RC besides that.
So at what point should I feel ready to move on then? If once I've sort of taken my time to, I guess,
Mm.
marinate with the passage a little bit longer, when should I feel ready to jump ahead?
Yeah, well, I don't I the test that I would have is really just more of a process-based test, which is just making sure it sounds like you are taking notes on a notepad, but I would just make sure that you do that for every single paragraph. If it's a long paragraph with multiple parts, you make sure to have a low res summary for each of the individual parts. And
Mm.
then before going to the questions, after you get to the end of the passage, it sounds like you are doing a recap, but I would be willing to do a more in-depth, detailed recap. You know, if your current
Mm.
recap is just like First paragraph is intro, second paragraph is this person's view, third paragraph is the author's view. I would add more detail to that recap, add the specific content of the views, even summarize the support, because I think you have the time to do it, and you probably are going to be able to do it without much trouble. And adding those elements to your process will just naturally then take a little bit more time. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to tell, like, because you probably you understood the passage pretty well. You wouldn't really be getting the scores you are if you weren't understanding it. So I think judging how much time to spend on the passage based on something based on like how well you understand it is just, it's hard to implement. So I would rather just add a couple steps to my process that'll just naturally improve your retention, and it'll naturally mean you take a little bit more time, and then that's how it goes.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think right now my low-res summary is more like A says B, critics say no, and I think that makes sense. I think that's definitely more actionable than just yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. And then I'm pretty sure RC is going to be solved at that point. Of course, other things might come up. Yeah.
Can I ask a sort of dispositional question, Drew? Like, what I'm seeing from your analytics is this sense of urgency to get out of the passage and into the questions. Posturally, is that how you feel, or do you feel comfortable in your pacing and the time you're spending in the passage, or do you feel like this like kind of push to like, I got to get out of here because this is not where the points are. The points are over here where the questions are. So I got to get over there, ASAP.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think I'm not necessarily feeling like I'm ready to, like, I need to get on to the passage just in order to get the answers. But I think I almost feel I get through the passage and think this isn't where the work is. Like I need to start getting ready to, the processing doesn't really need to happen here. I've already done that to a certain degree, and now it's time to move on. But I do think that I am sort of feeling ready to, pounce on where the points are, like you said. I think that's definitely true.
Okay. So I think Kevin and I are trying to communicate this sort of postural point to you at a high level. I want you to change your posture. The points, paradoxically, are in the passages, not in the questions. I know what I just said is like kind of literally false in a sense, like you have to collect the right answers, but it's your thorough understanding of the structure of the passage that allows you to capture those points on the questions, which you already are capturing, just more quickly. The profile of someone, I mean, I only see 2 prep tests on your analytics. The profile of someone who scores well and has, and is able to consistently do so is almost invariably that of spending more time on the passage to really absorb the information, understand the structure, and then they just fly through the questions, right? You're not flying through the questions, you're flying through the passage. I mean, your results are great. Like, let me just like be very clear about that. Your results are amazing. But where do I see improvement? I see improvement in consistency of these results, right? I want to make sure every prep test you take, you get these results on RC. And the path there to consistency of these results is for you, I think at a high level, to change your posture towards the section, right? The understanding and the work and the points live in the passage. Make sure you understand the passage, make sure you understand the structure. And then you'll see the questions all of a sudden just become really easy. You'll see what the right answer is much more quickly.
That definitely makes sense. And I think as far as, I think just spending more time, that seems very simple, but I think that I definitely do, and the numbers show this too. I definitely do spend comparatively little time on the passage when the questions, I mean, I'm in red for pretty much all of my RC, for the amount of time I spend in the questions. So, that makes a lot of sense. I'm excited that I'm going to take another one ideally this weekend. So hopefully, hopefully that'll work out for me. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Although you were already at -1, so
fair.
Let's bring the average to -0.5 maybe. But yeah, so that brings us to logical reasoning, and the section that you got the most wrong on was section 1, and it seems like it's purely because you just didn't have enough time to do these questions. So you clearly solved it at the end on blind review. And so the issue is, well, where did that time go? And it seems pretty clear that that time was spent on just a bunch of questions in the middle. But in particular, I think conditional logic based questions are things that are taking you a little bit longer. So, for example, this question here is a standard conditional logic based question. I don't know if you remember doing this.
Yeah, I do. I can bring you through the thinking that I remember tripped me up if that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I think here, I think the 2 or the B and
Actually,
C
why don't
were
we
the
go
ones that I
back
was.
into the tester? Sorry, what? Kevin,
Yeah,
why don't we
oh,
just
yeah.
put us back into a tester?
Sure. Yeah, so I can click on here, and it'll take us to, yeah.
Great. Yeah, it was between B and C where I was going, and I think the confusion lied in the distinguish for this. I had all of it mapped out, and then I was sort of thinking what is defined as a human action, and what I realized during after that sort of thinking was that the here let me reread this one more time. Is that I mean the two factors that sort of go into this are it being a human action and being on the basis of a specific motivation, and then that means it's intentional. So both of these are in that sort of in that strand of reasoning there, not the other one. And my thinking was that okay, the envelope was torn deliberately by on the basis of a specific motivation and by a human. And there was a part of me that says okay, she is doing this action on a specific motivation. I didn't realize that okay, the driver becoming distracted was not her action. That's sort of where I got
Right.
to. And I think
Right.
I spent
the
too much
driver's
time.
a different person from Judith.
Yeah.
That
so
is
the
what.
conclusion here has said Judith performed intentional. So
Yeah.
that's what how you were interpreting C, right?
Yeah. And I think I didn't sort of put them into two different. I said okay, well that is a human action, and I guess there is a specific. Yeah, that is where I got tripped up.
Now it sounds like that kind of error is something that you would have cleared up very quickly if you just went away from the problem and came back to it. It seems like this is one where if you knew that you were stuck between these two, and it seems like you had a very strong understanding of the stimulus, you knew what you were looking for. So if you had trouble distinguishing between these answers, it probably is going to come down to something like what you experienced, which is there's just a phrase that you're overlooking or a certain interpretation that you have that is a misinterpretation. And I think it would be in your interest to just build in time to come back to a question like this. It's you knew you were in trouble, and clearly you're able to get these questions right. So when you know that you're in trouble like that, there's a couple of ways to go about it. Maybe just merely recognizing that you should move on is going to be enough. But if you find that that's going to be difficult, then you can implement rules for yourself about maybe like how many times to go back between answer choices. But I suspect that this is just a situation where you may not have really. It's only your second test after your diagnostic, right? So you really haven't given any thought to a little bit of time management. I bet just knowing that, hey, if I'm stuck, let me just move on and flag the question that's going to help on the next test.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely try to be keeping that in mind. I think another part of me knew that I knew that B was right. I couldn't find a flaw with B, but I think I spent too much time trying to sort of, I don't know, pick at C to be like, I feel like I know that there's something off about this, but I didn't feel ready to move on because I couldn't, piece it out in the moment.
Yeah, but that's that problem there, number 16, 344, right? You were on the correct answer for for a minute, right? For at least a minute. And imagine if you had that extra minute, if you had 20 more seconds on each of 22, 23, 24, you might have been able to get those right. And then another one would be like this number 15. You got
Wait,
correct.
sorry, Kevin. Can I just
sure.
say something before we move on to 50?
Yeah.
Drew, I just want to highlight what you just said about like you kind of knew B was right, but you just wanted to pick at C to make sure it was wrong. Do you ever pick a right answer choice and then refuse to look at the other answer choices because you know this answer choice is right and you think Sure, I could spend time looking at the other answer choices, or I could not. If I do, I gain more confidence that I picked the right answer. If I don't, I gain more time that I can spend on other questions.
Yeah, I think the problem for me there is that I usually am able to, once I sort of identify the right answer, just based on intuition, I sort of can see, okay, based on the way that I got to the right answer, I can see the reason that all of the other ones are wrong. And with 16, that isn't what happened. I think on 16, the intuition didn't carry me through to sort of easily eliminate C because of that little trick. But I do think that yes, usually I do that, but it's usually I'm able to do it fairly quickly. But I certainly I think I often don't feel comfortable just being like, this is the right answer. I think because usually that
I'm
helps me
not
with
even
other
going to look
tricks.
at the others.
Yeah, I don't do that. Yeah, usually.
So, Drew, I think this is a confidence thing.
Mm,
You know, this is your second prep test, right? You're going to do more prep tests. Eventually, you're going to start realizing, okay, I've seen this kind of stuff before. I kind of know how these things work. I actually do feel comfortable picking whatever it is, B, A, even, and not looking at the rest of them.
mm,
That's not something you need to do every single time. It really depends on you dialing in your confidence level. But
mm,
it is a it is a tool I want you to have in your toolkit. Like I do want
mm,
you to use it sometimes. Like, you know, the fact that you're using it 0 times like ever,
mm.
that's it's clearly
Yeah,
underutilization. Now, of course, a
yeah,
lot of people overutilize. So for you, it's an easy case, right? I can just push you a little bit. Just say, you know, I'll just say to you, like, try it, right?
yeah,
Next time you get caught up in a situation, you're pretty sure B is right. You don't know why C is wrong. You know, for me, I'm like, I'm sure there's a reason why C is wrong. I don't see it now. That's okay. I'm gonna move on because I'm in the middle of the section. Blind review will be when I come back and figure this out. Or I don't know, or I'm just gambling that I got this question wrong, and that's okay. It is some amount of risk every single time I make a decision to move on. I'm also choosing to bear some amount of risk, right? And
mm,
you just gotta get comfortable with that and dial in your risk tolerance, right? Because it's a trade-off. You know, all this time
certainly.
spent on question 16 probably could have been spent better in later questions.
Mm, that
Yeah.
definitely
All right,
makes
Kevin,
sense.
you were talking
Yeah.
about question 15.
Yeah, it's another example of a situation where you got it correct, but took longer than ideal. And actually, let me go into your take. So, do you remember this one? Like, did you diagram it out? Like, what was your process here?
Yeah, I think I did diagram that out here. Let me look at the question one more time just
Yep,
to
go ahead.
the answer choices, just see if I remember where
Yeah.
where that might have tripped me up. This was another one where I knew that D was the right answer from even just I read the prompt and the stem, and I knew that D was the answer, but I think I spent too much time just being like, okay, well, I need to make sure that all of these are wrong. And in addition to that, I think it was around this time that I got to that I guess mid section. Uh, I don't know if this is a common experience, but sort of midsection, I have to sort of reinvigorate my focus, where I sort of I get into the flow of things. But midsection is when I sort of have to re-rally myself to get back into going into it, so I don't just sit there pondering why all of the other ones are incorrect. I think that seems to me, if I remember correctly, what happened here.
Yeah. I mean, so then it really is the same prescription. It sounds like you are aware when this happens. And maybe it would help to know that, hey, if I were to take a new LR section, I might be flagging like 7, 8, 9 questions simply because I didn't feel like I cleanly eliminated the other ones, but I feel like I got the right answer, so I'm just going to move on. And
Mm,
the idea is you're giving yourself permission to move on, and you're telling yourself you're going to come back to clean it up later if you have time. But then what ends up happening is as you do more questions, there's going to be maybe other questions that you really need to go back to because they really stumped you. And then a question like this, where your only issue was just you weren't comfortable about why all the other ones are wrong.
yeah.
That's going to fall away, and you're not really going to go back to that.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think part of me feels that that might maybe a matter of just practicing and trying that. I think there's a part of me that now, since I'm still getting used to timing, this is my I didn't take any timed sections, full sections before just doing my first
Yeah.
prep test after the core curriculum. I think there's a part of me that feels like, oh, I don't know if I'll have time to come back, even if I flag them and come back. Maybe it would be faster if I could just finally get it down. But I think that definitely makes sense. Feeling more comfortable, trusting the reasoning that brought me to that answer in the first place. That makes sense. Definitely.
Yeah.
Did you
Uh,
say you did map this out like on paper, on scratch
Ye-
paper? You
Yeah,
you
I
like mapped
did.
out the logic. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is another point of improvement. You can do drill, or you should do conditional logic drills where like you're at the level where I feel pretty confident saying that you don't need to map this out. I feel like you're
Mm,
using mapping it out, the physical diagramming. I feel like you're using it as a crutch, almost like a
mm,
safety blanket kind of thing, right?
mm.
Like this question in particular is just your standard formal
Yeah.
logic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's in the
And
core curriculum is how standard
yeah.
this particular one is, right? So I
Yeah.
think you can read this English, you can see it in your mind's eye, the mapping of
Yeah.
it, right? Map it out in your mind's eye. You know, I was
Yeah.
talking to Kevin before he jumped in. I was like, Kevin, would you actually map this out? And both of us were like, yeah, but in our heads, we would just, as we read,
Yeah.
we would translate, we would see the formal logic, the symbolism, and we would draw the conclusion. It's much
Mm.
faster to do it that way. And I think, again, for you, it's just a matter of confidence. Just
Certainly. Yeah.
try to do it that way. So I would do a bunch of drills where it's conditional logic heavy and just force yourself not to pick up a pencil. Force
Yeah.
yourself. I mean, you're gonna get some
Yeah.
of the stuff wrong. Like, look, I map things out. Like, there are definitely questions in LR where I pick up my pen and I like
Mm.
have to map it out. So it's too convoluted, right? But
Yeah.
that's not the point of the drill. The drill is to push yourself to see how far you can get without having to pick up a pencil.
Yeah. That makes I think the fact that I did map it out in my head, I think I sort of felt some sort of obligation to myself to still map it out, even though
Yeah.
I was able to do my I
Yeah.
had the right answer. I like looked through them before I mapped it out, and I was like, D is the one that is correct. But I sort of felt like I needed to sort of
Yeah.
it's like going back and checking a math problem or something of that sort, where I felt like I needed to, show my work, even though yeah, it's not necessary. That definitely makes sense. I think yeah, that's definitely needed.
Sorry, I gotta bring up the analytics again. We can point to other questions too, but I suspect it's all going to be basically the same point, which is you felt like you needed to be sure that the wrong answers are wrong and that you had like a concrete reason the wrong answers are wrong. And now that you recognize that's that's causing you time to be wasted, I'm pretty confident you'll get that under control with some more practice. So I think the big takeaway from LR for me was just getting to the bottom of why certain conditional logic based problems seem to take longer. And it seems like it's a combination of that issue of wanting to be completely confident, as well as maybe diagramming when you don't necessarily need to. And then some drilling is going to help too. You're still kind of a newbie when it comes to studying. So I'm pretty sure once you just get more conditional logic based drills done, a couple more prep tests, you'll be averaging high 170s, I think.
Yeah, great. I'm looking forward to taking this next one. I think it's having the skills that I gained from like the practice of the core curriculum. I think it made taking this different, but I think I still wasn't used to timing. I think taking it again, knowing sort of what it's like to go into this test with like a little bit more experience under my belt, I think will be good, rather than just jumping into it without having done any practice test after. I'm really excited to take the next one.
Yeah, for a specific drill recommendation, I would
Mm.
filter for conditional logic and I would filter for rule application. You get all these rule
Mm.
application questions right, but for some reason it's taking you too long to get them
Mm.
right. And I mean, I don't want to rehash all the reasons that we've been talking about,
Yeah, of
you know,
course.
timing, but probably something like that. But this is a good problem to have. Conditional logic problems and rule application problems in particular are some of the most pattern heavy problems in LR.
Mm.
Right, you get used to these patterns. Your confidence boost. Your accuracy is already there. I think for you, it's just a matter of speeding up and getting that confidence up, so that you don't end up in a situation where you're rushed and out of time for the last couple of questions. Right.
Yeah.
So for these pattern heavy questions, conditional logic questions, PSA rule application questions. I mean, those are just like they're just like math problems. You know,
Yeah.
you start doing them, they just start clicking, and then your confidence rises appropriately.
Mm.
So yeah, that will be the prescription before you take your next prep test.
Okay. Definitely. How many of those drills, or like in what format, like in terms of like times and question amounts, would you recommend for that before I take my next test?
So you want to go first, Jaywa?
Sure. I'm actually very open about, like, I mean, I would just filter for conditional logic and rule application. Definitely do them timed. You could do 5-question drills, you could do 10-question drills. But just kind of keep in mind this process of, like, you know, what do we say? We try not to resist the urge to pick up your pen and start diagramming.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's at the cost of missing questions, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
I want you to experience that boundary condition of, hey, where am I going to fail? Like, where there is a point at which you're going to fail for not like mapping it out because it's too complex. But you need to experience that because you are now too far from that horizon, right? I want you to get close to it. The second thing is start practicing awareness of when you are mentally stuck on a question for any number of reasons. It could be for that reason where you didn't recognize that the taxi driver is not the same person as, like, whatever her name was. It could be that. It could be because you knew the right answer was right, but you just had to knock out this other answer for being wrong.
Yeah.
Start having that awareness that, hey, this is happening to me. Not a good use of my time. Flag this question, move on to the next question. Come back to it later because if you do that, you will have time at the end to come back later. And then you can do a triage round. Like, I have like all these flags up. Which ones actually matter? And like Kevin said, you'll immediately know that the one that you flagged because you couldn't get rid of C, it doesn't matter. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's this other question where you weren't even sure about your right answer. Or rather, you weren't even sure about your selected answer.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And that will be good practice. I think a big part of it is just needing to get the reps in for getting used to actually, navigating the full length test and getting timing right and knowing when to move on. I think I'm a little stubborn with definitely with the wrong answer choices and with just moving on in general. So I think breaking that a little bit. As far as the experimental section, do you all have any thoughts on it with that? Because I think that I feel like was a little bit of a medium between the other two logical reasoning, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this is the last section. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks like this is another time issue. It also is conditional reasoning. Oh, but I believe this was a circular reasoning fallacy. But
you needed more time
seems,
for this. This is the parallel flaw question. A lot of the parallel questions straight up just cost more time simply because the amount of text that's on screen, right?
Yeah.
So 44 seconds, I mean, that's rough.
Yeah. And I guess it looks like what happened was you landed on B, and then because you had to make a quick decision, you didn't fully process through B versus A. And you just had to move on.
I honestly, I think I got B, and then I saw A, and A looked more appealing in that split second that I had to, I was like, oh, I really need to go, or else the time's gonna run up. So I think that makes sense. I think that's definitely what happened there.
And then I'm pretty sure for this one, we're going to see examples of. So I think pacing overall is good up until here, and then let's see, is this going to be a conditional logic based? Well, yeah, I mean this is
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So same thing that happened, I'm sure, right? You know E is right, but it's just. First, you wanted to be sure that the other ones were wrong. It's also a question of just doing more of this kind of problem, which is essentially just like a quantifier-based inferences problem.
Kevin, can you toggle show summary?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Thanks.
Yeah. So I think it's really the same advice that applies for this section.
Yeah, that pattern is really, really good to know. I think I didn't catch that those were the ones that were my time sinks until now. So that's definitely good to know. I'll need to go hit those drills.
Yep, same one. Like this is sufficient assumption one, where again you got it right, but probably once you're a little bit get a more practice with the conditional logic at play here, it'll be very straightforward.
Yeah, I think also I knew that C was the only way to reach that conclusion. But
Yeah.
still, I went and I knocked all that out. I think this is really, I don't know. I did not sort of make the connection for that pattern there. That's really good to know. Wow, I didn't realize it was that consistent too.
So yeah, look, I mean, I'm sure you'll iron out these issues, and then when are you taking the test or hoping to take the test?
So I'm unsure right now. I was planning on doing it like a more extended study period and like maybe even taking it like or like in like June. But honestly, I think now I think if I'm over the next few weeks, if I'm continuously scoring like above where I am on this last one, I don't see too much of a reason not to. I mean, as much as it would be, I think ideally I would be getting none wrong on every section before I take it. But I mean, I don't know if there is a certain degree where I think it says that on one of the pages that it's anything above a 175 for the most part can just be dependent on the test, whether like where you land on that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not too sure exactly when I'm taking the test.
But yeah, I mean, I'm in
just-
favor of taking it as soon as, yeah, I mean, like if
Yeah.
the next couple of tests go well, no reason not to take it sooner rather than
That's
later.
exactly what I was going to say. I think it's realistic for you to plan to take it in January. I'm going to assume you actually have time to put into prepping from now until January. I just want to see consistency, like
Yeah.
this test is great. You got an amazing score on this test. I want to see that you can consistently knock this out. And I want to see, I mean, the results are presenting very specific problems. And I want to see those problems get addressed in future tests.
Yeah. So if I am planning on taking the test in January, what ideally would that look like for I assume like how many drills and I guess I assume no more than one prep test per week, right? But how many drills, what should I be doing to sort of just iron all of this out before then? If January is achievable. I mean,
Well, when it comes to prep tests, I mean, you're in a position where actually I think the standard advice of one per week doesn't necessarily apply. Like if you wanted to take more than one per week, that actually could be fine as long as you're spending the time to review properly, because it's not going to take you as much time to review as the vast majority of other people. But but by test day, I think what would be ideal would be having a rolling average of the last 5 PTs going into the test being something that you're happy with, ideally like 1 or 2 points above what you would like to get. And so basically whatever your study schedule allows, put in 1 or 2 PTs a week. For drilling, a lot of it just depends on, are there specific issues that you can identify in between each prep test? Here, there's a very specific issue to work on. It may not be evident after the next test. Sometimes it takes a couple more sections to do. So it's a little bit hard to give, anything more specific than that.
yeah, of course.
But like you're also in a position where I would bet if really all you did was do prep tests, and then when you have when something comes up as highest priority, so if you go to your analytics here, which I think did a pretty good job of identifying your highest priority here, it did identify conditional reasoning. If you just combine prep tests with doing a drill based on whatever is showing up at the top here, that's going to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah,
Great.
you can click this button. We can't click this button because we're just viewing your analytics. But
Yeah.
from your account, you can just click Start Drill, and then that will select for conditional reasoning tags.
Yeah, great. I'll get right on that then. I'm super excited to get this ironed out, get those muscles. I don't know, keep flexing them so on test day it's a little bit easier to get right through.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Drew, thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much. This gave me a lot of very, very actionable steps to jump right on. Really, thank both of you so much. I really, really appreciate this. And I appreciate the core curriculum. That's part of what got me here. So thank you
Wonderful.
both, really.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you,
Yeah.
Drew.
Yeah, no, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah,
Good luck.
stay in touch. Good luck.
Thank you.